students of Reddit, what's your, well that happened moment in the classroom? If you enjoy this video, consider giving it a like and subscribing. In a full auditorium, a random guy from a higher year entered. He yelled, "Ladies, this one's for you," and then proceeded to take off his shirt and trousers, his boxers still on luckily. He then flexed his biceps and did different poses in front of hundreds of students sitting there not knowing how to react. He then left, saying sorry to bother you to the lecturer. Oh well. Apparently he bet with his friends to do this for 3 throws of strong beer. First day of school, freshman year in wood shop. Teacher just finishes showing us his safety video on proper use of how to use a table saw. Then he was about to give a demonstration and said, "Now, you're going to see me do things a little differently than how you just saw it being done in the video you just watched, but that's because I'm a professional and have been doing this for over 30 years. Teacher then proceeded to immediately cut off 3 of his fingers with the saw at the front of the classroom. Blood was spraying everywhere. He was screaming holding his hand. Guys, I was within the back of the class starting laughing thinking it was a prank. Girl in the front of the class projectile vomited. A few of us helped him find his fingers on the floor, went and got the nurse. Someone called an ambulance. They were able to reattach them at the hospital. Wood class was cancelled for the rest of the year, and we all took home economics in its place. No longer a student, but when I was a freshman in high school there was this guy I knew since middle school who would always get into trouble. Well, one day he told our math teacher that he needed to go to the restroom. Already familiar with his behavior and using the restroom excuse to ditch class, she refused to let him go. He insisted that he had to go, but she refused yet again. Minutes passed and told the teacher that if she didn't let him use the restroom, that he was going to pee in the trash can. Trying to call his bluff, she told him go for it on the trash can. Some of the students didn't think he'd do it and egged him on to do it. He got up from his desk and approached the trash can, which was at the corner right next to the classroom door. He was in the corner for a minute. Then he actually peed in the trash can. The teacher just sat there as it happened, nonchalant like. I can't remember if he left the class after he pulled it off, since it was years ago. But yeah, it cracks me up thinking about that moment. A bonus I should add about the guy. My best friend knew him as well, and were even good friends. He once told me that during our sophomore year the guy got expelled for breaking the door window of the security office. They chased him and caught up to him at a nearby mall. Someone asked meth, "Can we cook it?" In chemistry, another person asked our math teacher, who was going home to Canada over break, if she could go threaten to kill his friend who lives there. Same person told the same teacher that he couldn't do the work because he has 100 extra chromosomes. He doesn't. She responded by saying, "That explains why you look like that." In high school physics, we were waiting for the teacher to show up, and another physics teacher from another class comes in with a bowling ball and says, "Do you guys think I can dribble this?" Everyone just kinda looks at him incredulously, and he begins to repeatedly and heavily strong arm the bowling ball into the floor hard enough for it to rebound high enough that he can keep the momentum going. People start to laugh, but then after about 5 or 6 bounces, the ball splits in half as it hits the floor. He quickly scoops up the halves, holds a conspiratorial finger to his lips, and shuffles out the door. About 15 seconds later, our physics teacher comes in, looks at the few dusty chips of bowling ball on the floor, and asks, "What was all that noise? What's this mess on the floor?" This wasn't my class, but was the talk of the school for a while. A well-liked teacher gave her class a free workday and offered to play some music. Upon opening her iTunes, she found a file named Transformers MP4. Curious, she opened it. It turned out to be hardcore porn that blasted through the entire class at full volume. Panicking, she couldn't figure out how to shut it off, so she ran the laptop, open and still blasting at full volume, down the hallway to the office to reduce exposure to students. It turns out, the superintendent's son used one of the shared servers to browse and download the video, so it was accessible by every computer connected to the school network. The superintendent resigned a couple years later. It was about the second week of class, in a full auditorium, so probably about 300 people. Professor asks if there are any questions about what he just talked about. Some guy sitting in the middle of the room mutters something about how he doesn't understand a goddamn thing, but he says it loudly enough so that everyone can hear, including the professor. Professor tries to help him out, asks him what he's confused about. This kid stands up and starts yelling about how this class is so stupid, it's a waste of time, just losing it about this class that we've only been to 3 times so far. Then he grabs his laptop, breaks it completely in half over his knee, and yells something about how he's going to be a TikToker anyways and doesn't need this stuff. As he's walking out, he goes, "I'm out of here. Who's with me?" Nobody moves a muscle, except for a guy on the opposite side of the lecture hall who shouts, "Yeah, F this stuff." And they both storm out together. I have no clue if that was part of some hazing ritual or a bet or what, but nothing like that has ever happened again in any of my classes. At my school we sometimes have drug dogs come and check the lockers. They always announce it like, "Teachers, please do not let students leave the classroom for the next bit of time." Everyone knows what it means, and one kid in my class grabbed his bag and jumped over 3 desks and ran out the classroom. Turns out he was an entrepreneur of sorts. A physics class in community college. Professor was explaining conservation of angular momentum and had a kid sit on a tall chair that spins. He then had the kid hold 2 books out with extended arms and then spin as fast as he can before telling the kid to pull the books in close to his chest. Think of a figure skater and how they spin really fast. The kid immediately turns into a blur and the stool/chair starts to tip slightly until it rockets from under him like it was shot from a slingshot. The kid slams into the floor as if he got chokeslammed and his head hit the floor in a way that sounded like someone dropped an overly ripe melon. The look on the professor's face said, "Well, that was a good run. I guess I have to find a new career now." Kid turned out okay and everyone got a laugh, but it genuinely looked like I had just witnessed a death. I was in a college class last semester. I'm in my early 30s, so I definitely wasn't the youngest student, but I wasn't the oldest either. There was a guy in his 60s in the class too. All semester he was super serious and studious. He always did like thrice the amount of work expected. He wrote a 15-page report when all that was expected was like 5. Finals rolls around, and during the test our professor steps out of the class for a minute. As soon as she's gone, old dude gets up and starts asking people for answers on the test. It's always the person you least expect. 9th grade for reference. Everyone was being super loud, so we were pretty much unable to discern anything short of our own table. Just as the teacher is coming in and everyone is quieting down, this one kid is just loudly talking and telling this one girl who looks really uncomfortable. It's 4 inches with the most proud voice ever. Not in the classroom, but it's still something that happened at school. At the last day of school, the entire high school goes into the theater for assembly. Then the entire grade presents the students that are leaving, and for every person that is leaving, a friend of theirs will walk up with a microphone and state why they will miss them, their achievements, etc. In our school year, this kid, let's call him John, was a complete a-hole. He treated everyone badly and smoked in school, etc. Rumors have it that he was asked to leave at the end of the year and that he was pretty much expelled. But he was still presented by his friend in front of the whole high school. When his friend finished talking, he grabbed the microphone, pointed to our principal, and shouted in it, "I'm glad that I'm leaving this school, as I'll never ever have to see your face again." Then he gave the mic to his friend and left via backstage. Everyone was at this assembly, from grade 9 to grade 12. Every teacher, counselor, even the principal and the director of the school was there. There was a huge gasp and everyone was completely silent for the next 30 seconds. Then the next people which are leaving walked up to the stage. Not really a classroom, but one day after PE me and my friends were changing out into our regular clothes, when suddenly we hear a commotion in the restroom. Our section of lockers had an almost direct view into the restrooms, so we make our way over there to see 2 of the 6 sinks, and they were ripped out of the walls by this one football player. This happened in February, and for the longest time until I graduated, I was a junior at the time, the sinks were still ripped out of the wall. One of the janitors must have gotten lazy, because the next time we went into the locker room the sink was haphazardly put back into the wall, only to be ripped out again. The guy who did this has major issues, as another friend said he played gore videos on a classroom projector. Everyone has a school issued laptop. And I saw him chase a freshman around the team locker room like a spider monkey, naked. If you enjoy these videos, please consider subscribing.